Caitlin Clark is undoubtedly the biggest star in women's basketball right now, and it's not hard to see why so many people are drawn to her, even if it's sometimes in the wrong way. As you can see here, Alyssa Thomas, one of the best players in the entire league, laid Clark out with a hard screen that may have a bit of a personal bias behind it. But that's just one of the things Clark needs to understand, that players going after her will be perfectly normal from now on, especially with the kind of attention she's been commanding from the media. Of course, instead of retaliating, Clark responded in the most Caitlin Clark way, which is by destroying her opponents on the court. She proceeded to play incredibly well in that win over the Connecticut Sun, putting up great all-around numbers to help the Indiana Fever secure that win. While helping her team win and putting the Fever in a good position to make the playoffs are great, Clark also made history in that win by setting the rookie record for most three-pointers made in a single season. That's the best way you can tell your haters to shut it. In this case, Clark not only secured the win, but also made history by doing it. The game, of course, was incredibly physical and hard-fought between the Fever and the Sun, and it was clear that they were fighting for a higher place in the standings. It was an all-around effort for the Fever as Clark didn't have the best performance of her career. Early on, Lexi Hull was showcasing her much improved three-point shooting, hitting a three-pointer after the defense collapsed on both Clark and Aaliyah Boston.
A tough shot on the other end. Here's Clark. Boston, extra pass. Lexi Hull buries a three.
The other members of the cast were also contributing well enough. Nalissa Smith hit a smooth turnaround shot early in the game. Then, in the next play for the Fever, Clark got things going by hitting a tough layup. The hot shooting Kelsey Mitchell, meanwhile, hit a three-pointer over a defender to give the Fever a 7-point lead in the first quarter. While it was Smith who hit a three-pointer in this play, it was all because Clark opened the play up with a great pass to Boston, who set Smith up for a shot in the left corner. Mitchell continued the three-point party by hitting a corner three late in the first quarter to put the Fever up by 9 points. Early in the second quarter, Boston continued muscling her way in the paint, hitting a tough layup, but the Sun trimmed the lead to 3 points a few plays later, making it clear that this was not going to be an easy walk in the park for the Fever. And throughout that run, Clark was seemingly nowhere to be found, struggling from the field with her shooting, even though she was setting the table up for everyone in that three-point party. The attention she was getting, however, allowed her teammates to find open shots. Erica Wheeler basically walked into an open three-point shot when defenders were too focused on keeping Clark occupied. We can clearly see just how locked in the defense was on Clark on this play, as Alyssa Thomas played great physical defense on the star rookie. Clark fumbled the ball because of Thomas's defense, but she found Hull quick enough as Lexi continued her hot shooting by draining a tough contested three-pointer. Clark finally joined the three-point festivities. She used another defender to knock her own defender down so that she could dribble into an open three-pointer to put her team up by 4. And after Hull stole the ball, Clark rewarded her at the other end by setting her up for a wide open three-pointer. Even when she wasn't the one doing the scoring, she was the one setting her teammates up, or at the very least, attracting the defense to give everyone else an opening. Things got a lot more competitive in the third quarter when the Sun started making a run. Connecticut finally got the lead with under 7 minutes left in the third off a Bonner layup. Hull continued her hot shooting, hitting her 4th three-pointer to give her team back the lead. Clark, however, had something to say about the run when she hit her patented step-back three-pointer. Then, to answer Carrington's three-pointer, Clark hit a tough layup over her. That's when things started to get chippy. Thomas hit Clark with a hard screen in the next play to show the rookie that she still has a long way to go and a lot of protein left to eat. Of course, that play was one of the most controversial ones in the game as Thomas got called for a moving screen and an offensive foul. It was a hard play that decked Clark because Thomas is actually so much bigger than her despite only 2 inches separating their heights. But there wasn't anything overly physical about that play, which was deemed an honest basketball foul, no matter what standards you look at. Thomas didn't like the foul one bit, but she wasn't called for a flagrant or an unsportsmanlike foul after putting Clark down on the floor with that solid screen. Clark, of course, brushed it off by sticking her tongue out in a Jordan-esque manner, shaking off the cobwebs, and telling everyone she was alright. Instead of retaliating and making things personal between her and Thomas, she simply shrugged the physical play off and continued playing the game. At this point in her rookie campaign, Clark already knows that she's going to be the target of many physical plays, and that's why she understands that this one from Thomas was just part of the many different hard bumps she has to get used to if she wants to continue making her mark on the game as a professional player. She had already broken the three-point record for rookies earlier before that play, but Clark kept her composure and hit a floater late in the third quarter to extend her team's lead. While the game continued to stay competitive after that chippy third quarter, the Indiana Fever continued to play well, with everyone on the team contributing, but it was still Caitlin Clark who put the game away for the Fever for good. With the game tied at 80 with 90 seconds left on the clock, she drove past her defender and hit a tough layup that broke the tie and allowed the Fever to run away with that victory. CC finished that win with 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. She struggled from the field considering that the Sun kept her in jail the entire game. game, but other than making history in that win, she showed just how impactful she can be, even when she's not the one scoring. Everyone on that team fed off of her. Boston had 10 points and 8 assists, acting as the secondary passer in the pick and roll play with Clark. Meanwhile, Lexi Hull continued her hot shooting, going for 17 points. Mitchell led everyone in scoring with 23 points. A lot of people would want to dismiss this as an overall team effort, plain and simple, but this is actually the Caitlin Clark effect right here. If you look at how the Fever run their offense, everything starts with Clark at the top. She facilitates off the pick and roll, draws defenders to her side, and collapses the defense. That win over the Sun encapsulates just how great she is at collapsing defensive sets, as a lot of her teammates got open three-pointers. She might have broken the three-point record for rookies by draining the 86-3 in that game, but it's the way that she steadily took over this game as a facilitator and team leader that impressed everyone the most, and this has been the common trend in the past few games for the Fever. Including the big win that Indiana had over the Chicago Sky on August 30th, the Fever have won 9 out of their last 13 games. They've won 3 straight games and have won all but one of their last 9 home games. More importantly, Indiana snapped an 11-game losing streak to Connecticut with that win. While the midseason break during the Olympic Games helped the Fever a lot, the rest that Clark got and the adjustments she made to her game were crucial in helping Indiana increase their chances of securing a good playoff spot. The Fever are now 16-16 after that win over the Sky, wherein Clark finished with 31 points and 12 assists. They are now 3rd in the East and are poised to win more games to climb the standings after starting the season slow. Of course, while Clark got laid out in the game by Thomas, there's one thing clear, and that's the fact that she's been embracing the physicality of the WNBA and the animosity she's been getting from opposing players. We've seen time and time again how different teams have been hitting her hard and making her feel less comfortable on the floor. But the fact that she just brushed that hard screen off and continued leading her team to that win over the Sun, including hitting a clutch layup, is proof that Clark is now evolving more as a leader who's more focused on the next play instead of crying over the physicality of her opponents. Of course, she might have learned the age-old art of flopping well enough to sell that call. After all, you also need to learn how to get the refs to blow the whistle in your favor if you know that your opponents are going to play you physically. With the 3-point record for rookies far behind her now, Clark's next focus is to continue to put the Fever in the best possible spot entering the playoffs. She probably isn't going to break Sabrina Ionescu's 3-point record for an entire season, especially because she's still a long way from that number with only a few games left on the schedule, but she's going to continue to prove that she's worth the hype both as a scorer and as a team leader. While Indiana isn't favored to win the title this season, the way that this team has been playing can turn the Fever into championship dark horses that can pull off upsets at any given moment. What do you think? How many records will Caitlin Clark break in her WNBA career? Let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.